The royal decree comes at dawn, and Beatriz knows before the parchment touches her hands that her life is over. Queen Leonor stands in the great hall of the Silver Moon Court, her crown gleaming with moonstone and malice, and strips every title from the Omega who dared to breathe the same air as her son. Pack law is absolute. The forbidden bloodline must be severed. But as the ceremonial blade cuts through the silk ribbons binding Beatriz to House Tavares, something impossible happens. A mark begins to burn across her palm, silver and ancient, the sacred wolf sigil that hasn't appeared in 300 years. Tell me the city you're watching from so I can send you a hug, because what happens next will shatter everything you think you know about destiny. The queen's face goes white. Prince Rodrigo, heir to the throne and the male who swore a blood oath never to claim an Omega, stumbles backward as if struck. Because that mark, that impossible holy mark, means only one thing. Beatriz isn't just any Omega. She's the lunar chosen. And the moon goddess herself has just declared war on the crown. But we must go back. Back 3 months, to when Beatriz de Almeida was nothing more than a healer's daughter in the lower quarters of Villarreal, the mountain territory where Omegas scrubbed floors and kept their eyes down and never, ever dreamed of royalty. Her mother, Inés, had warned her every day of her life. Our bloodline is common. We serve. We do not aspire. But Inés had secrets buried so deep that even she had forgotten them, threads of ancestry she'd cut away like dead roots. Beatriz had been summoned to the palace for one reason only. A plague had swept through the noble houses, a sickness that turned wolves feral and stripped them of their humanity. The royal healers had failed. The priests had prayed until their voices broke. And then someone remembered the girl from Villarreal, the Omega whose hands could draw poison from wounds, who could calm a wolf's beast with nothing but a whisper. She'd arrived in a cart that smelled of hay and fear, her worn cloak hiding the trembling of her fingers. The palace of Lisboa rose before her like a mountain of marble and cruelty, its towers crowned with silver that caught the moonlight like teeth. She was nobody. She was nothing. And yet, when they brought her to the sickroom where Prince Rodrigo lay burning with fever, his wolf tearing him apart from the inside, she'd felt something shift in her soul. His eyes had opened as her hands touched his chest, golden eyes, wolf eyes, eyes that saw straight through to the marrow of her. "Who sent you?" he'd rasped, his voice like gravel and silk. And she'd whispered, "No one. Everyone. The moon herself, perhaps." She'd meant it as a jest, a way to calm her own terror, but his hand had caught her wrist with supernatural strength, and he'd breathed, "Then perhaps she knows something we don't." The healing had taken 3 days. 3 days of her hands pressed to his burning skin, her voice low and steady as she sang the old songs her mother had taught her, songs in a language she didn't fully understand, songs that felt like they belonged to someone else, some other version of her from a life she'd never lived. And on the 3rd day, when the fever broke and Prince Rodrigo's wolf finally settled, he'd looked at her with something beyond gratitude, something that terrified them both. "What's your name?" he'd asked, his voice still rough. "Beatriz," she'd whispered. "Beatriz de Almeida." "Beatriz," he'd repeated, and the way he said it, like a prayer, like a curse, had made her heart stop. "You should leave this place. Tonight. Before." But it was already too late. Queen Leonor had been watching from the shadows. Queen Leonor, who'd spent 20 years engineering the perfect political marriage for her son, who'd negotiated treaties and alliances across 3 kingdoms, who would sooner see the realm burn than watch her heir claim an Omega with no name, no title, no worth. The queen had seen the way Rodrigo looked at the healer girl. And the queen had made her decision. The days that followed felt like walking through a dream painted in poison. Beatriz tried to avoid the prince, tried to make herself invisible in the vast labyrinth of the palace. But Lisboa was a city of whispers, and everyone had noticed the way the heir's eyes followed the common Omega. Servants gossip, nobles speculated, and Queen Leonor watched it all with the patience of a spider spinning her web. Beatriz learned quickly that the palace was not one place but many, layers of reality stacked upon each other like the rings of an ancient tree. There were the public halls where nobles paraded in silk and silver, playing their games of alliance and betrayal. There were the servant corridors, narrow and dim, where omegas and betas moved like ghosts, invisible to those above them. And then there were the forgotten places, the old wings sealed off after fires or scandals, where the stone walls remembered older magic and darker truths. She found herself drawn to these abandoned spaces, seeking solitude in rooms where dust lay thick as snow and moonlight filtered through broken windows. It was in one such room, a library long forgotten, that she discovered the first hint of her true heritage. A book, leather-bound and ancient, its pages yellow with age. She'd opened it without thinking, and her breath had caught as she saw the family crest embossed on the first page. House Cardoso. A wolf and a crescent moon intertwined. Her mother's true name. The family that had been wiped from history. Beatriz had traced the symbol with trembling fingers, and for just a moment, the mark on her palm, still dormant, still hidden, had tingled with warmth. As if recognizing kin. As if saying, finally you begin to understand. The betrayal comes wrapped in kindness, which makes it worse. Queen Leonor summons Beatriz to her private chambers, a room drenched in silver tapestries and the scent of night-blooming jasmine. She offers tea. She smiles. "You saved my son's life," the queen says, her voice honey-sweet. "I am in your debt." And Beatriz, foolish and hopeful, believes her. "I want to reward you," Leonor continues, pouring tea with practiced grace. "House Tavares has agreed to sponsor you. You'll be given a title, a position at court. You'll train as a formal healer under the royal physicians. No more scrubbing floors in Villarreal. No more poverty." She slides a document across the table, beautiful calligraphy spelling out a future Beatriz never dared imagine. "All you must do is sign. And accept one small condition." Beatriz's hand trembles as she reaches for the parchment. "What condition, Your Majesty?" The Queen's smile doesn't waver. "You will serve House Montero. Lady Caterina Montero, to be precise. She's to marry Rodrigo at the summer solstice. She'll need a personal healer, someone she can trust. Someone who understands the delicate nature of royal life." The words land like knives. "You understand, don't you? My son's future is already written. His bond is already promised. What happened in that sick room? Gratitude is a powerful thing. But it fades. Duty remains. Beatriz should refuse. Every instinct screams at her to tear the parchment in half and run back to Villarreal, back to obscurity, back to safety. But she thinks of her mother's bent back, her sister's hungry eyes, the way omegas in the lower quarters live and die without ever seeing sunlight. She thinks of the way Rodrigo had looked at her, and tells herself it meant nothing, cannot mean anything. Signs. For 2 months she plays her part perfectly. She becomes Lady Caterina's shadow, a ghost in healer's robes who mixes tonics and keeps secrets. Caterina is beautiful in the way of all high-born alphas, tall and golden, with eyes like cut sapphire and a laugh that rings through halls like music. She's not cruel. That's the worst part. She's kind to Beatriz, treats her almost like a friend, confides her nervousness about the wedding, about whether Rodrigo will love her. "Do you think he's capable of love?" Caterina asks one evening, as Beatriz braids her hair for a formal dinner. "He's so cold, so distant, like he's always somewhere else." Beatriz's fingers don't falter in their work. "I think, my lady, that some wolves guard their hearts because they've learned how much it costs to bear them." Caterina turns, catching Beatriz's wrist, studying her face. "You've spoken to him, haven't you? More than the others. I've seen the way he watches you when he thinks no one's looking." Her grip tightens. "What did you do to him in that sick room?" "I healed him," Beatriz says quietly. "Nothing more." "Liar." But Caterina releases her, turning back to the mirror. "I don't blame you. He's magnetic, isn't he? Like a storm given flesh. But he's not for you, Beatriz. He can never be for you. Pack law forbids it. An heir cannot claim an omega. The bloodline must remain pure, strong. You know this." "I know this," Beatriz echoes. And she does. The law has stood for 5 centuries, since the first werewolf kingdom rose from the ashes of the human wars. Alphas marry alphas. Betas serve. Megas obey. The hierarchy is sacred, unbreakable, written in blood and moon magic. To violate it is to invite chaos. But then comes the night of the Harvest Moon Ball, the grandest celebration of the year, where the entire court gathers to honor the moon goddess and celebrate the coming royal wedding. Beatriz is meant to stay in the servants' quarters, invisible and forgotten. Instead, Prince Rodrigo finds her in the gardens, where she's escaped to breathe air that doesn't taste of perfume and politics. "You're avoiding me," he says without preamble, stepping from the shadows like he's part of them. Her heart lurches. "My lord, don't." His voice is rough. "Don't my lord me. Not here. Not when we're alone." He moves closer and she can smell him. Pine and smoke and something wild that makes her wolf whine. "I've tried to forget you. I've tried to convince myself that what I felt in that sick room was just fever. Just gratitude. But every day, Beatriz, every single day I feel you. Like you're in my blood. Like you carved yourself into my bones." "Stop." The word breaks from her lips. "You're to marry Lady Katerina. In 3 weeks, you'll stand before the entire realm and swear yourself to her. This, whatever this is, it cannot exist." "I know." His hand rises, hovering just beside her cheek, not touching, but close enough that she can feel the heat of him. "I know what I'm supposed to do. What duty demands. But answer me one thing, Beatriz. Just one. Do you feel it too?" She should lie. Should tell him no, should shove him away and run until her legs give out. Instead, she makes the mistake of meeting his eyes, those impossible golden eyes, and whispers. "Every moment. Every breath. Like I'm drowning and you're air." He kisses her then, and the world catches fire. The kiss is brief, desperate, a collision of everything they've been denying for months. His mouth is hot against hers, demanding and gentle all at once, and for 3 heartbeats, nothing else exists. Not the palace, not the queen, not the hundreds of laws and traditions designed to keep them apart. Just his hands in her hair, her fingers clutching his shirt, and the feeling that this is what it means to be alive. Then reality crashes back in. They wrench apart, both trembling, both horrified at what they've done. Rodrigo's eyes are wild. His wolf so close to the surface that they glow in the darkness. "Forget this happened," he says, his voice shaking. "Forget me. I'll arrange for you to be transferred. Another house. Another territory. Somewhere you'll be safe from. From me," he doesn't say, but she hears it anyway. "Yes," Beatriz whispers, though it feels like agreeing to her own execution. "That would be best." But the moon goddess has a wicked sense of humor. 2 days later, Lady Katerina falls ill. Violently, mysteriously ill. Her wolf turning feral just like the plague that had struck Rodrigo months before. The royal physicians panic. They summon Beatriz because of course they do. She's the only one who's cured this sickness before. And when she enters Katerina's chambers and sees Rodrigo already there, his face drawn with worry, their eyes meet and she knows they're both doomed. The healing takes a week this time. Katerina's wolf is stronger, more resistant, fighting Beatriz's magic at every turn. Beatriz sleeps in a chair beside the bed, her hands constantly on Katerina's skin, her voice hoarse from singing the old songs. Rodrigo refuses to leave. He paces the room like a caged animal, watching Beatriz work, and the tension between them grows thick enough to choke on. On the 5th night, Katerina wakes screaming, her wolf fully surfaced, claws tearing at her own skin. Beatriz lunges forward to calm her, but the alpha's strength is too much. She hurls Beatriz across the room, sending her crashing into a table. Pain explodes through Beatriz's side as she hits the floor, blood blooming across her ribs. Rodrigo moves faster than thought. He's between them in an instant, his own wolf surging forward, a snarl ripping from his throat that makes the windows rattle. "Stand down," he roars. His alpha command so powerful that even Katerina's feral wolf freezes. "You will not harm her. You will submit." And Katerina does. Her wolf, despite its madness, recognizes the dominance of the heir's command and drops to the floor, whimpering. But it's what happens next that changes everything. Because as Rodrigo turns to Beatriz, as he drops to his knees beside her bleeding form, his wolf surges so close to the surface that his eyes go pure gold, and he growls 3 words that echo through the chamber like a death sentence. Mine. She's mine. The bond snaps into place like a chain made of starlight and inevitability. One moment, Beatriz is just a girl bleeding on a floor. The next, she can feel Rodrigo's heart beating in her chest, can taste his panic and rage and desperate, world-ending love on her tongue. The mate bond. Forbidden, impossible, undeniable. Rodrigo's face goes white as he realizes what he's said, what he's done. The bond can't be broken once it's spoken aloud, once it's acknowledged. It's older than pack law, older than kingdoms. And they both know what comes next. Queen Leonor arrives within the hour. She must have had spies watching, must have known something would break eventually. She sweeps into the chamber with 6 royal guards, her face a mask of cold fury. "Explain," she says to her son, her voice deadly quiet. "Explain to me why my heir just declared a bond claim on an unbonded Omega. Explain why you would throw away your duty, your kingdom, your destiny for." Her eyes rake over Beatriz with pure contempt. For this, Rodrigo stands, placing himself between his mother and Beatriz. It's done. The bond is spoken. Pack law. Pack law, Leonor interrupts, states that no heir may claim an Omega. Pack law states that your bloodline must remain pure. Pack law states that I, as Queen and Alpha of Alphas, have the right to nullify any bond that threatens the stability of the realm. She pulls a silver dagger from her belt, its edge gleaming with moon-blessed steel. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. No. Rodrigo's voice drops to a lethal growl. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? Leonor steps forward, and her power fills the room like a crushing weight. She's not just a queen. She's one of the oldest, strongest alphas in living memory, and when she releases her dominance, even Rodrigo staggers. You forget who raised you, who trained you. You forget that I have already lost one son to foolish sentiment. Her voice cracks just slightly. Your brother chose love over duty. And where is he now? Exiled. Stripped of name and title. Living like a rogue in the wilderness because he refused to accept his responsibility. Beatriz's breath catches. Rodrigo has a brother. No one at court has ever mentioned. Tomas was weak, Rodrigo says, but there's pain in his voice. I'm not him. Then prove it. Leonor extends the dagger, hilt first, toward her son. Reject the bond. Publicly. Before the entire court. Or I will do it for you, and it will be far more painful for your little Omega. The silence that follows is suffocating. Beatriz tries to speak, tries to tell Rodrigo to do it, to save himself, but her voice won't work. She can feel his anguish through the bond, feel the way it's tearing him in half. Finally he speaks. Give me 3 days. 3 days to say goodbye. To settle affairs. Then I'll do as you ask. Leonor studies him for a long moment, then nods. 3 days. But the Omega stays in custody. I won't have her running off to some romantic hideaway while you compose your rejection speech. She gestures to the guards. Take her to the West Tower. No visitors. No messages. Nothing. As the guard seize Beatriz's arms as they drag her from the chamber, she locks eyes with Rodrigo one last time. And through the bond, so faint she almost misses it, she hears his voice in her mind. I will find a way. I swear it. I will find a way. But some promises are made to be broken. The journey to the West Tower feels eternal. The guards say nothing as they march her through corridors she's never seen, deeper into the palace's ancient heart. She catches glimpses through windows, the city of Lisboa sprawling below, thousands of lives being lived in blissful ignorance of the drama unfolding in the palace above them. Omegas in the market square, laughing as they barter for fish. Children chasing each other through narrow alleys. An old beta man feeding pigeons in a sun-drenched plaza. Normal lives. Simple lives. lives Beatriz will never have. The West Tower is older than the rest of the palace, its stones darker, its magic thicker. She can feel it the moment she crosses the threshold, ancient wards woven into the very foundation, designed to contain, to suppress. The guards unlock a door carved with symbols she doesn't recognize and push her inside. The room is beautiful, she'll give them that. Silk curtains the color of midnight, a bed piled with furs, a window that looks out over the royal gardens. But beauty doesn't change the iron bars on that window, or the way the door locks behind her with a sound like a tomb sealing shut. She's alone. Or so she thinks. The West Tower is a beautiful prison, all silk curtains and soft beds that can't disguise the iron bars on the windows and the guards stationed at the door. Beatriz spends the first day in numb silence, staring at the walls, feeling Rodrigo's presence through the bond like a constant ache. She can sense his movements through the palace, can feel when he's in council meetings, when he's arguing with his mother, when he stands outside her tower at midnight, so close but impossibly far. On the second day, a visitor arrives who changes everything. Father Duarte, the high priest of the Moon Temple, an ancient beta whose eyes have gone milky with age but whose mind is still sharp as a blade. He's escorted by 2 priestesses, and when the guards try to bar his entry, he simply looks at them. "I am a servant of the goddess," he says mildly. "Not of the crown. You will let me pass." "I do." He settles into a chair across from Beatriz with a grunt, his robes rustling. For a long moment, he simply studies her, his blind eyes somehow seeing more than anyone with sight. Then he says, "Child, do you know why pack law forbids heirs from bonding with omegas?" Beatriz swallows. "To keep the bloodline strong. To ensure." "No." His voice is gentle but firm. "That's the story they tell, but it's not the truth. The truth is far older, and far more frightening." He leans forward, and his voice drops to a whisper. 500 years ago, when the first werewolf kingdoms rose, there was a prophecy. The moon goddess spoke through her oracles and said that one day, an Omega would be born who carried the lunar mark, the sacred sigil that denotes the goddess's chosen champion. And this Omega would bond with an heir, and together they would either save the wolf kingdom or destroy it utterly. Beatriz's blood runs cold. "That's just a myth." "Is it?" Father Duarte extends his hand, palm up. "Give me your hand, child." "Your left hand." She hesitates, then obeys. The moment his fingers touch her palm, she feels a jolt of power, and suddenly her hand is burning, a silver light blazing across her skin, forming a pattern she's never seen before. A wolf, mid-howl, surrounded by a crescent moon. The sacred mark. "Dear goddess," she breathes. "Indeed." Father Duarte releases her hand, and the mark fades, but Beatriz can still feel it there, like a brand on her soul. The prophecy states that the lunar Omega will appear when the kingdom faces its greatest threat. Not an external enemy. An internal rot. Something that will tear the realm apart from within unless balance is restored. His blind eyes fix on her with eerie precision. "Tell me, Beatriz de Almeida, do you know why your mother fled Villarreal 20 years ago? Why she changed her name and hid you in the lower quarters?" "She never said." "I assumed. Your mother is Inés Cardoso, daughter of House Cardoso, one of the oldest and most powerful bloodlines in the realm. A bloodline that was wiped out in a single night 20 years ago, every member slaughtered except for one pregnant Omega who managed to escape." His voice is heavy with sorrow. "Your mother fled because she knew the truth. She knew that House Cardoso had been destroyed not by rogues or rival packs, but by order of the crown. Because your grandfather, Lord Estevao Cardoso, had discovered something about Queen Leonor, something dark enough to warrant the extinction of an entire house." Beatriz can't breathe. What did he discover? That the plague currently ravaging the noble houses isn't natural. It's deliberate. Someone has been poisoning the bloodlines, weakening the strongest families, consolidating power. And your grandfather traced it back to the Queen's own physician, a man named Sebastio, who serves House Souza. The name hits Beatriz like a physical blow. "Oh, Souza." Queen Leonor's maternal house. The house that supplies all the royal physicians, including the ones who failed to cure Rodrigo and Caterina. The ones who insisted only Beatriz could heal them. They wanted me here, she whispers. They wanted me at court close to Rodrigo. Her mind races. The queen offered me a position. She sponsored me through House Tavares. She put me in Caterina's service. Why? If she hates Omegas so much, why bring me into the palace? Father Duarte's smile is sad. Because you, child, are the key to everything. Think. Who benefits if the prince bonds with an Omega in violation of pack law? Who benefits if the heir is disgraced, stripped of his title, exiled like his brother? Understanding crashes over her like a wave. The queen. She never wanted Rodrigo to rule. She's been engineering his downfall since the day he was born, Father Duarte confirms. Leonor loved her first son, Tomas. He was everything she wanted in an heir. Obedient, ambitious, ruthless. When he was exiled for bonding with an Omega, it nearly destroyed her. But she learned from that failure. This time she wouldn't wait for her son to fall. She would push him. Create a situation so perfectly designed to break him that he'd have no choice but to violate pack law. And when he did, she'd have the legal right to name a new heir. Someone more controllable. Who? Beatriz demands. Who would she name? Her nephew, Lord Miguel Souza. A vicious alpha who's been waiting in the shadows for years, consolidating power, building alliances. With Rodrigo exiled and Tomas already gone, Miguel would be the obvious choice. And House Souza would finally control the throne. Beatriz feels like the floor is tilting beneath her. I have to tell Rodrigo. I have to warn him. He knows. Father Duarte's voice is gentle. I spoke with him this morning. Why do you think he's been fighting so hard to find a way out? He's not just trying to save your bond, child. He's trying to save the kingdom. Then what do I do? Her voice breaks. If I'm this lunar Omega, if I'm supposed to stop this, what do I do? The priest stands, his robes swirling. Tomorrow, the queen will hold a public ceremony in the Great Hall. She'll force Rodrigo to reject the bond before the entire court, before every noble house in the realm. It will be brutal. It will be designed to humiliate you both. He moves toward the door, then pauses. But here's what she doesn't know. The bond cannot be rejected if the lunar mark has manifested. The moon goddess's claim supersedes pack law. Supersedes even a queen's authority. All you have to do is show them the mark. But it faded, Beatriz says desperately. When you let go of my hand, it disappeared. It will return, Father Duarte says with certainty. At the moment of your greatest need. When your heart is most desperate, when all seems lost, that's when the goddess reveals her will. He looks back at her, and for a moment, his blind eyes seem to glow with silver light. Have faith, child. The moon has not chosen you for nothing. He leaves, and Beatriz is alone with the weight of destiny pressing down on her shoulders. She moves to the window, pressing her forehead against the cold iron bars, and stares out at the moon rising over Lisboa. Somewhere in the palace below, Rodrigo is preparing to reject her. Somewhere, Queen Leonor is celebrating her victory. Somewhere, the kingdom teeters on the edge of a knife. And Beatriz, common-born Omega, daughter of a murdered house, chosen champion of the moon goddess herself, has one day left to figure out how to save them all. She closes her eyes and prays. Not to any specific deity, not with any formal words. Just a simple plea sent out into the darkness. Please, show me what to do. Show me how to be what you need me to be. The mark on her palm tingles in response, warm and reassuring, as if the goddess herself is whispering, wait, trust, all will be revealed. The third day dawns cold and gray, the sky heavy with clouds that promise storm. Beatriz is dressed in a simple white robe, the ceremonial garb of an Omega being rejected, meant to symbolize purity and the severing of bonds. They don't let her wash her face or brush her hair. They want her to look broken, pitiful, beneath the prince's notice. The great hall is packed. Every noble house in the kingdom has sent representatives, drawn by gossip and scandal, and the delicious promise of witnessing a royal humiliation. Beatriz is led through the crowd in chains, actual silver chains, blessed by priests, meant to suppress her wolf and prevent any desperate bond claims or escape attempts. The metal burns her wrists, but she keeps her head high. Queen Leonor sits on the throne, resplendent in black and silver, her crown catching the dim light. Beside her stands Lord Miguel Souza, a tall alpha with cold gray eyes and a smile like a knife. He watches Beatriz the way a predator watches prey, and she can feel the malice rolling off him in waves. Prince Rodrigo stands at the center of the hall, dressed in formal armor, his face carved from stone. He doesn't look at her as the guards force her to kneel before him, doesn't acknowledge her presence. But through the bond she can feel him screaming. Queen Leonor rises, and the hall falls silent. "We are gathered here," she begins, her voice ringing with authority, "to witness justice. 3 days ago my son, Prince Rodrigo Tavares, heir to the throne of the moon-born realm, committed an act of treason against pack law. He declared a bond claim upon an unbonded Omega, in direct violation of the sacred codes that have governed our people for 500 years. Murmurs ripple through the crowd, some shocked, some gleeful. "Pack law is clear," Leonor continues. "An heir cannot claim an Omega. The bloodline must remain pure, must remain strong. To violate this is to threaten the very foundation of our kingdom." She turns to Rodrigo, her eyes hard. "My son understands this. And so, before all of you, he will publicly reject the false bond and reaffirm his commitment to duty, to honor, to the realm." She gestures, and a priest brings forward a ceremonial dagger, the same moon-blessed blade Leonor had wielded in Katerina's chamber. "Speak the words of rejection," the queen commands. "Cut the bond, and all will be forgiven." Rodrigo's hand closes around the dagger's hilt. Beatriz can see his fingers trembling, can feel the agony tearing through him via their connection. He finally looks at her, and his golden eyes are filled with such pain that she nearly cries out. "Beatriz de Almeida," he says, his voice rough. "I, Rodrigo Tavares, heir to the moon-born throne, hereby." The doors to the great hall explode inward with a boom that shakes the foundations. A man strides through the wreckage, flanked by a dozen wolves, rogues by the look of them, their clothes rough and their eyes wild. But the man leading them is no rogue. He's tall and regal, with dark hair shot through with gray and eyes the same impossible gold as Rodrigo's. He wears no crown, no armor, but power radiates from him like heat from a forge. "Hello, mother," he says, his voice dripping with venom. "Did you miss me?" The exiled prince, Rodrigo's brother. Queen goes pale. "You dare," she hisses. "You dare return to this court after you framed me." Tomas interrupts, moving down the aisle with casual menace. "After you manufactured a bond between me and that poor Omega girl 20 years ago, drugged us both with moon madness potions, forced a connection that would have destroyed us both just to get me out of your way." He laughs, bitter and harsh. "Oh, mother, I've had 2 decades to uncover your secrets. 2 decades to gather evidence. Did you think I'd stay in exile forever?" The hall erupts in chaos. Nobles shouting, wolves snarling, guards moving forward only to be met by Tomas's rogues. And in the center of it all, Rodrigo drops the dagger and runs to Beatriz, breaking her chains with his bare hands. "We're leaving," he snarls. "Right now. I don't care about the throne, I don't care about pack law." "No," Beatriz says, and her voice is stronger than she expects. "We're not running. Not anymore." She turns to face Queen Leonor, and something is burning in her palm, hot and bright and impossible to ignore. "You want to talk about pack law? You want to talk about sacred codes?" She raises her left hand, and the lunar mark blazes to life, silver light flooding the hall, brighter than any torch, brighter than the sun. The wolf sigil seems to move on her skin, howling silently, and every person in the room drops to their knees in instinctive submission. Every person except the queen. That's a trick, Leonor snarls. A glamour. Some priestess magic. It's real, Father Duarte says, stepping from the crowd. I witnessed its manifestation myself. The prophecy has come to pass, Your Majesty. The lunar Omega has been revealed. And by the oldest laws of our kind, laws that predate your crown, that predate this kingdom itself, she supersedes your authority. No. The queen's voice is shaking now, not with fear but with rage. No. I have spent my entire life building this realm, protecting it from weakness, from the chaos that Omegas bring. I will not let some peasant girl with a mark on her hand undo everything I've achieved. She draws her own blade, longer and deadlier than the ceremonial dagger. If the goddess wants to challenge me, then let her come down from the moon and do it herself. Leonor lunges, moving with the supernatural speed of an alpha in her prime. But before her blade can reach Beatriz, Rodrigo is there, catching his mother's wrist, stopping the strike an inch from Beatriz's throat. Mother and son lock eyes, and the air between them crackles with power. You would choose her over me, Leonor whispers. Over your own mother. Over the kingdom. You're not choosing the kingdom, Rodrigo says quietly. You're choosing your pride, your need for control. I loved you, mother. I would have done anything for you. But you couldn't stand the idea that your sons might want something different than what you planned. So you destroyed Tomas. You tried to destroy me. He releases her wrist and steps back. But you failed. Because the bond between Beatriz and me isn't a weakness. It's not a violation of pack law. It's a gift from the moon goddess herself. And I will not reject it. The queen looks between her sons, the one she exiled and the one she tried to control, and something breaks in her face. Then you are no son of mine. She turns to Lord Miguel. Arrest them. Both princes, the Omega, and anyone who stands with them. Charge them with treason. Miguel smiles, cold and triumphant. With pleasure, Your Majesty. He gestures to the royal guard, and they advance, weapons drawn. But before the first blade can fall, the clouds outside break, and moonlight streams through the windows. Impossible moonlight because it's midday, because the moon shouldn't be visible at all. The silver beams strike Beatriz's raised hand, and the lunar mark explodes with radiance so intense that people cry out and shield their eyes. And in the light, a voice speaks, not from Beatriz but from everywhere and nowhere, vast and ancient and unmistakably divine. Enough! The presence of the goddess fills the great hall like water filling a cup, pressing against every surface, every soul, every breath. People collapse, trembling, as the weight of her divinity crushes down upon them. Even Queen Leonor staggers, dropping to one knee, her face twisted with shock and fury. The moonlight coalesces, taking form, not solid but visible. A woman of impossible beauty, her hair flowing like liquid silver, her eyes twin moons that see everything, judge everything. She stands beside Beatriz, one translucent hand resting on the girl's shoulder, and when she speaks, her voice is both gentle and terrible. My children, the goddess says, and the words resonate in their bones. I have watched you tear yourselves apart over laws you claim are sacred. Laws you insist come from me. Her gaze sweeps the hall, and everyone she looks at flinches. Let me be clear. I never commanded that heirs should not bond with Omegas. That law was written by frightened alphas who feared their own power, who sought to control rather than to trust, who believed that strength could only come from dominance, never from balance. She turns to Queen Leonor, and the queen visibly trembles. You, Leonor Tavares, have committed atrocities in the name of preserving strength. You murdered House Cardoso, not for treason but because they discovered your poisoning campaign. You exiled your firstborn son for daring to love. You manipulated your second son, tried to force him into rejecting his true mate, all so you could maintain your grip on power. The goddess's voice hardens. Did you truly believe I wouldn't see? That I would allow you to pervert my will to serve your ambition? I did what was necessary, Leonor gasps, still on her knees but defiant even in the face of divine judgment. I did what had to be done to keep this kingdom strong, to keep it from falling into chaos. Omegas are weak. Silence. The single word from the goddess reverberates like thunder. Beatriz de Almeida has more strength in her smallest finger than you have ever possessed. She healed your son when your finest physicians failed. She faced exile and humiliation without breaking. She carries the weight of a prophecy older than your crown and does not buckle beneath it. The goddess's form grows brighter, more solid. And you dare call her weak? Leonor has no answer. The goddess turns to the assembled court, her voice softening but losing none of its authority. The prophecy spoke of an Omega who would bond with an heir and either save the kingdom or destroy it. That choice was never Beatriz's alone to make. It belongs to all of you. You can continue down this path, hunting those you deem inferior, poisoning your own bloodlines in pursuit of an imaginary purity, building your power on the corpses of the innocent. Or you can choose balance. Choose to honor all ranks, all wolves, all lives. She places her hand over Beatriz's heart, and silver light blooms across the girl's chest, spreading like veins of starlight through her body. I mark Beatriz de Almeida as my chosen. She carries my blessing, my protection, and my authority. Any who move against her move against me. The mark on Beatriz's palm flares one final time, and then the goddess begins to fade, her form dissolving back into pure moonlight. But her last words echo long after she's gone. The old laws are broken. Build new ones, better ones. Or I will return, and next time I will not be merciful. The silence that follows is absolute. Then, slowly one person stands. Father Duarte, the old priest, moves forward and kneels before Beatriz, not in submission but in acknowledgement. The lunar Omega, he says clearly. The goddess has spoken. One by one others follow. Nobles who saw the light, who felt the divine presence, who cannot deny what just transpired. Even some of the royal guards drop to one knee, their loyalty shifting in the face of undeniable truth. But not everyone bows. Lord Miguel Souza stands rigid, his face purple with rage. This is heresy, he spits. Trickery. Moon magic and illusions meant to deceive us. I will not recognize. His words cut off as Tomas moves behind him, blade pressed to his throat. You will be silent, the exiled prince growls, or you will be silenced. Permanently. Miguel freezes. Queen Leonor remains on her knees, but her eyes burn with undiminished hatred. She looks at Beatriz, at Rodrigo standing protectively beside the Omega, at Tomas who has returned from exile with an army at his back. And she laughs, a broken, bitter sound. You think you've won, she says. You think one divine appearance changes everything. But the realm doesn't run on prophecies and marks. It runs on gold, on alliances, on power. She struggles to her feet, and though her body trembles, her voice remains strong. Kill me if you must. Exile me like you did Tomas. But the houses loyal to me will never accept an Omega on the throne. They'll tear this kingdom apart before they bend the knee. Then let them try. Rodrigo's voice is steel. Let them come. Because I'm done pretending that the old ways are sacred. I'm done sacrificing everything, everyone, on the altar of tradition. He takes Beatriz's hand, intertwining their fingers, and the bond between them pulses with visible light. This Omega is my mate. She will be my queen. And anyone who has a problem with that is welcome to challenge me directly. The challenge hangs in the air like a blade. In wolf culture, such challenges are binding, sacred. Any alpha who disagrees with the heir's claim can fight for the right to rule. It's brutal. It's bloody. But it's law. No one steps forward. Not because they agree. Beatriz can see the resentment in many faces, the disgust, the fury. But they've just witnessed a goddess manifest in their great hall. They've seen the lunar mark blaze with holy fire. And whatever their personal feelings, they're not stupid enough to fight someone carrying divine blessing. 3 days. A voice calls from the crowd. Lord Antonio of House Pereira, an old alpha with silver hair and sharp eyes. Give us 3 days to convene a proper council, to discuss terms, to negotiate the transition of power. Surely that's reasonable. Satrap. Beatriz can feel it. 3 days is enough time to gather armies, to coordinate attacks, to rally the houses loyal to Leonor. 3 days is enough time for everything to fall apart. But Rodrigo nods. 3 days. The council will convene in this hall at dawn on the 4th day. Come prepared to swear fealty to the new order. Or come prepared to leave peacefully into exile. His eyes are hard. But come prepared. 'Cause this is happening. With or without your approval. The crowd disperses slowly, nobles whispering urgently to each other, guards confused and uncertain. Lord Miguel is dragged away by Tomas's rogues, still sputtering threats and curses. And Queen Leonor, stripped of her guards and her authority, is escorted from the hall by Father Duarte himself, a prisoner not of chains but of circumstance. Finally, Beatriz and Rodrigo are alone in the vast space. Just the two of them, standing in a shaft of impossible midday moonlight, still holding hands like lifelines. That, Rodrigo says quietly, was the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Beatriz laughs, and it comes out half-sob. Which part? Your mother trying to murder me. Your brother showing up with an army. Or a goddess manifesting to rewrite pack law. Yes. He pulls her close, wrapping his arms around her, and she can feel him trembling. All of it. Every second. I thought I was going to lose you. I thought. His voice breaks. When she raised that blade, when I saw it coming for your throat, But you stopped her. Beatriz pulls back enough to look up at him. You chose me. Even knowing what it would cost. There was no choice. His hand comes up to cup her face, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. The moment I met you, Beatriz, in that sick room 3 months ago, there was no choice. You were already written into my soul. The bond just made it official. She rises on her toes and kisses him, and this time there's no fear, no guilt, no world ending. Just the two of them and a love that a goddess herself has blessed. When they break apart, Rodrigo's expression grows serious. The next 3 days are going to be hell. Half the realm will be planning rebellion. The other half will be trying to figure out how to profit from the chaos. My mother won't go quietly into exile. She'll call in every favor, every alliance she's ever made. I know, Beatriz says. And Miguel Sousa has allies in every territory. Soldiers loyal to him, nobles who owe him debts. If we're not careful. I know, she repeats. And the council might reject your claim entirely, might try to install someone else as heir, might. She puts a finger to his lips, silencing him. Rodrigo. No. I know all of it. But right now, in this moment, we're alive. We're together. And the moon goddess just told the entire realm that I'm under her protection. She smiles and it's fierce. Let them come. Let them plot and scheme and threaten. Because I didn't survive poverty, didn't survive my family's massacre, didn't survive being dragged into palace politics and assassination attempts, just to roll over and die now. He stares at her for a long moment, then throws his head back and laughs. You know what? You're going to make a terrifying queen. Good, she says. This kingdom needs terrifying. It needs someone willing to burn the old ways to ash and build something better from the ruins. A sound from the entrance draws their attention. Tomas stands in the doorway, leaning against the frame with his arms crossed. Hate to interrupt this touching moment, he drawls, but we have approximately 73 problems that need addressing before sundown. Including but not limited to our mother's loyalists, Miguel's assassins, the question of succession, the matter of your wedding, and the small detail of how we're going to feed the army of rogues I just brought into the palace without starting a riot in the kitchens. Rodrigo sighs. You always did have impeccable timing. It's a gift. Tomas pushes off the doorframe and walks toward them, and as he gets closer, Beatriz can see the scars, physical and otherwise, that 20 years of exile have carved into him. But seriously, we need to talk strategy. Father Duarte is gathering the priests, and there are a dozen minor houses waiting for an audience. Oh, and someone needs to check on Lady Katerina. Pretty sure everyone forgot she was still recovering from that plague in all the excitement. The plague that was deliberately engineered to create this situation, Beatriz says, and both brothers look at her sharply. Father Duarte told me. House Souza has been poisoning nobles for years, weakening bloodlines. Your mother was behind it. Of course she was, Tomas mutters. Nothing mother does is ever by accident. They walk together through the palace, three people who shouldn't exist as a unit, a rightful heir, an exiled prince, and an omega marked by the divine, but somehow they work. Tomas's irreverent humor balances Rodrigo's intensity. Beatriz's practical wisdom grounds them both. And as they move through corridors suddenly alive with activity, with servants rushing to prepare quarters for unexpected guests and guards trying to figure out who they're supposed to be guarding anymore, Beatriz feels something she hasn't felt in months. Oh, not naive hope. Not the foolish belief that everything will work out perfectly. But real, gritty, hard-won hope that maybe, just maybe, they can pull this off. The next 3 days are exactly as hellish as Rodrigo predicted. Houses Souza, Montero, and a dozen others immediately declare their refusal to recognize Beatriz's claim. Skirmishes break out in the lower city between loyalist soldiers and rebels sympathetic to the princes. Someone tries to poison Beatriz's food twice. Lord Miguel escapes from custody and flees north with 40 armed guards. And Queen Leonor, from her comfortable imprisonment in the East Wing, manages to send out a dozen secret messages calling for aid. But Beatriz learns quickly. She meets with Father Duarte and the priesthood, securing their full support. She walks through the servant quarters, speaking with omegas and betas who've spent their lives invisible, and gains their fierce loyalty. She stands beside Rodrigo in war rooms, learning strategy and politics and the brutal calculus of power. And every night, she touches the mark on her palm and prays for wisdom. On the 4th day at dawn, the Great Council convenes. Every major house sends representatives. Some come with hope in their eyes. Others come with thinly veiled contempt. Still others come simply because refusing the summons would be declaration of war. And they're not quite ready for that yet. Beatriz stands before them in robes of silver and white, the lunar mark visible on her raised palm. Rodrigo stands at her right hand. Tomas at her left. Behind them, Father Duarte and the high priests. Around them, the future of the moonborn realm. The old laws are broken, Beatriz says, her voice clear and carrying through the hall. The moon goddess herself has declared it. The question before you now is simple. Will you cling to traditions written in fear and maintained through cruelty? Or will you help us build something better? The debate that follows lasts 7 hours. Nobles argue about bloodline purity, about the dangers of setting precedent, about what happens to pack hierarchy if an omega can claim an heir. Some arguments are made in good faith. Others are thinly veiled attempts to maintain advantage. But slowly, grudgingly, a consensus emerges. Beatriz and Rodrigo will rule together, not as king and omega consort, but as equal sovereigns. The law forbidding heirs from bonding with omegas will be formally abolished. Houses that refuse to swear fealty will be given 1 month to leave the realm peacefully or face exile by force. And a new council will be formed, one that includes representatives from all ranks, not just alphas. It's not perfect. It's messy and complicated and leaves everyone at least a little bit unhappy. But it's a start. As the sun sets on the 4th day, as the last nobles file out of the great hall having sworn their oaths, Beatriz allows herself to breathe. "We did it," she whispers to Rodrigo. "We actually did it." "You did it," he corrects, pulling her close. "I just stood here looking menacing." She laughs, and the sound is lighter than it's been in months. Around them the palace is transforming. Omegas walk through halls with their heads high. Betas speak up in meetings without fear. And somewhere in the East Wing, Queen Leonor sits in her comfortable prison and watches the kingdom she built crumble into something new. Something better. 3 months later, Beatriz stands on the balcony of the royal chambers, looking out over Lisboa as the city prepares for the coronation. The streets are decorated with silver ribbons and moonflowers. People from every territory have traveled to witness history, the first Omega Queen in 500 years. Rodrigo comes up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Having second thoughts. Constantly, she admits. But I'm having them while moving forward, which I think counts as progress. He laughs against her hair. You know, half the realm still thinks this is going to end in disaster. Only half. I'm disappointed. I was aiming for at least 60%. She turns in his arms. But they can think what they want. We'll prove them wrong. One day at a time. There's a knock at the door. Tomas enters without waiting for permission, because that's just who he is now. You two need to see this, he says, his face grim. He hands Rodrigo a letter, sealed with wax the color of dried blood. Rodrigo breaks the seal and reads, his expression darkening with every line. When he finishes, he looks up at Beatriz. It's from Lord Miguel. He's made it to the Northern Territories. And he's not alone. He's gathered an army, rogues, exiled nobles, soldiers loyal to the old ways. Pauses. And he's claiming that the lunar mark is false. That you're a fraud. He's calling for a challenge of Ascension. Beatriz's blood runs cold. A challenge of Ascension is the oldest, most brutal form of trial in wolf culture. Combat to the death, sanctioned by pack law, to determine who has the right to rule. If she refuses, she's admitting guilt. If she accepts and loses, she dies. When? She asks, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. 3 weeks, Tomas says quietly. At the old battleground in Vale do Lobo. Neutral territory. He's inviting representatives from every house to witness. It'll be broadcast across the entire realm. Rodrigo's grip on her tightens. You don't have to do this. We can refuse. We can. No, Beatriz says, and she's surprised by how calm she sounds. We can't. If I refuse, it'll confirm every doubt anyone has ever had. The realm will fracture. Civil war. She takes a deep breath. I have to fight. You've never been trained in combat, Rodrigo says desperately. Miguel is a warrior. He's killed dozens of wolves in battle. This is suicide. She turns to look at him, at Tomas, at the mark on her palm that glows faintly silver in the evening light. Then we have 3 weeks to change that. 3 weeks to train me. To prepare me. To figure out how to beat an alpha twice my size who's been fighting since before I was born. She smiles and it's fierce. The moon goddess didn't mark me just to watch me die in some arena. She has a plan. We just have to trust it. And if her plan involves you getting torn apart by Miguel Sousa, Tomas asks bluntly, then I die knowing I tried to change things. Knowing I didn't back down. Knowing I fought for a better world. She looks between the brothers. But I don't think that's her plan. I think she marked me because she knew I'd need divine protection to survive what's coming. And I think what's coming is bigger than one battle. Bigger than Miguel. This is just the beginning. The words hang in the air, heavy with prophecy and promise and terrible certainty. Because Beatriz has started having dreams. Dreams of wolves with eyes like ice, marching from the north. Dreams of ancient magic stirring in forgotten places. Dreams of a war that will make these political squabbles look like children's games. But those dreams are for tomorrow. Tonight, she has a coronation to prepare for. And after that, she has 3 weeks to learn how to kill an alpha in single combat. She touches the mark on her palm, feels the warmth of divine power humming beneath her skin, and thinks, let them come. Let Miguel bring his army. Let the old houses plot their rebellions. Let the enemies gather at the gates. I am Beatriz de Almeida Cardoso Tavares, daughter of a murdered house. Healer. Mega. Chosen champion of the moon goddess. And I am done running. The moon rises over Lisboa, full and bright, and somewhere in the north, Lord Miguel Sousa sharpens his blade and smiles. 3 weeks until the challenge. 3 weeks until the Omega Queen proves herself or dies trying. 3 weeks until the realm discovers whether prophecy and divine marks are enough to overcome centuries of tradition and violence. 3 weeks until everything changes. Again.